Are you a high-achieving dental entrepreneur frustrated by the gap between where you are and where you want to go? Are you tired of advisors whose advice keeps you merely surviving when you should be thriving? I'm Tim McNeely, and I believe you deserve to build true wealth so you can take even better care of the people you love, the causes you care about, and leave your dent in the universe. Welcome to the Dental Wealth Nation Show, where we hand you the keys to unlock true wealth quicker and with less effort than you ever thought. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Dental Wealth Nation Show. And you have made a great choice to tune in today, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I can feel just a little bit overwhelmed in my day. The emails, the phone calls, the client service, right? Everything that comes across your plate. And that's why you have made an incredible choice to tune in today, because by the time we finish, you're going to know how AI can help you gain back precious time so that you can serve your patients at an even higher level. You're going to have a new way of thinking about AI in your practice and really being able to press into it and understand it. But most importantly of all, you're going to feel motivated to go back and start finding these tools and putting them in your office. And I'm so excited to have Laura Nelson here today. Laura is the founder of Front Office Rocks, and she has been helping dental teams improve the patient experience for decades. And that's what I love about her, is her focus is really helping you improve that patient experience. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about AI today, but it's always through that lens of serving your patients at a higher level. Laura, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. What a great intro. I appreciate that. I'm excited to dive into the new stuff.
Yeah, well, and this is so important, I think, today, because we so often you can feel overwhelmed in your practice with everything that's going on. We're going to get there in a moment, but I think your background plays a huge role in what you're doing today now with AI. And so, can you share a little bit about how Front Office Rocks and what you've been doing for the past 15 years actually really ties in to this technology revolution that's going on today?
For sure. Yeah. So I actually got into dentistry 25 years ago. My ex-husband is a dentist. So I married into dentistry, I guess you would say. I'm no longer married. I'm a recovering dental spouse, no longer married to the dentist, but I've been in dentistry for 25 plus years. And we started our practice. And at that point, we had no computers. We were doing everything on paper. And I moved into dentistry having to learn dentistry, just like everyone else in the beginning, where there wasn't shows like this. There wasn't ways to learn online. And my background's organizational development and human resources. And so I have the business side of things. I just didn't know the dentistry. And so I've evolved in our industry, like many of us, to go from floppy disks to internet to online YouTube channels. And along the way, one of the things that I felt was missing in our industry was team training. The dentists go to conferences, the dentist, the hygienist, and the clinical team get the clinical CE, but what about running the business? And what about the day-to-day operations? And so I founded Front Office Rocks because I felt like team training is what was missing. We need to give our teams the training they need to do well for our patients, because they're the first and last impression of every appointment. And we, a lot of times throw them to the phones and say, here, answer the phones. And we don't give them the training. We don't teach them how to schedule our patients. We don't teach them how to do the things. So I've been teaching teams for 15 plus years with Front Office Rocks. And I'm an online training website, subscription-based website, which was cutting edge when I started it. It was kind of when Netflix started. So I've always been kind of cutting edge. What's next? What's new? And how can we support dental teams and dentists so that we can do better care for our patients? So I've been along this evolution of technology. I used to be an IT recruiter, which is probably where I got the bug when the .com market was big. And so I've really loved to watch technology come into our industry, and we're in the next big wave when it comes to running our practices.
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe that. And so, you have literally worked with hundreds of dental practices. And when you've seen these practices, are there some signs that a practice is ready to start diving in and implementing some of these AI systems? Or are there some red flags if they're not ready?
Well, those that embrace change, the better are going to do better, right? A lot of it has to do, especially with Front Office Rocks, we've noticed we can have great leaders, but not great implementers. And you need kind of both on the team. You need somebody who's the big picture thinker. We need to take the practice to the next level. We need to implement this new thing. We need to do this new change. But then you also need somebody who can implement to help guide you through the change, because change isn't easy for any practice. So thinking back of all the changes we've had in our industry, going from dark rooms to digital x-rays, going to paperless practices, bringing in CAD CAM, laser, like we've all had change, but the ones that do better are the ones that can embrace the change, and somebody has to manage that change. You can't just bring it to the team and say, tomorrow we're doing this, and then we expect them to do it and they don't know how, right? We need to help them. So practices that do better at things like implementing the change are the ones that actually have a plan of why are we making the change? What's it going to do to serve us? How are we going to do it? And then how are we going to make sure that our team is trained to be able to do the new thing the new way?
Wow. And I want to pause there because I believe what you just said is so important. And I want to make sure you as the listener really pick up on this, right? It's not enough for the doctor just to bring back the thing and say, do this, is it? Right? It really does take team buy-in. So even though we're talking about AI, there really is a human component to this, isn't there?
Oh, 100%. I mean, AI isn't anywhere without the humans, and leadership is a big part of it. Having a plan is a big part of it. I mean, some offices, they flourished to go paperless, online, do all the things, and some still struggle. I just heard there's still people mailing paper claims in to insurance companies. And I'm like, I don't even understand how that's possible, right? So the difference is not that the technology isn't there. The difference in that example is the leadership and the implementation of things within the practice, right? I mean, we've been sending x-rays and digital claims for years now. Why are still people mailing, right? So it really has to do with what's going on within the dental office.
Now, right, if you're dental staff, if you're listening to this, right, we get a lot of doctors tuning in, but I know sometimes we can be a little worried about the technology too. So, right, as a wealth manager, certified exit planner, when AI started coming on, it was pretty good. And I was a little fearful. I'm like, I don't know that people are going to need me anymore. So just being honest here, it's like right there, there's this sense of like, oh, wow, like, is this going to put me out of a job? And so what would you tell the office manager or dentist who says, man, I can bring this in and maybe replace a staff member, or a staff member who says, I'm going to get replaced by this? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah. So AI, and this is a big fear everybody has, right? Is AI going to replace jobs? And here's the thing that I say. So there was a time before cars that we had horse and buggy, right? And then cars were invented. And yes, in a way, there's no more horse and buggy manufacturer. Somebody's not making wooden wheels. Like, it did replace jobs when the car came, but it gave us more jobs because of automobiles, right? So we are at the same thing where some tasks, some jobs may be replaced, but more jobs are going to become in effect because of AI. And specifically within our industry, AI is here not to replace people. AI is here to replace tasks. So you can't take the human element out of dentistry. We will always have patients who have dentistry that needs to be done. We will always have fearful patients. We will always have patients that need conversations and comfort. We will always have patients who have questions. AI is not going to be able to replace us for that. It's the human interaction. But what I will say is AI at some point will replace you if you don't embrace AI. And what I mean by that is, let's say 3 years from now, if I'm a dental office manager and I'm hiring somebody for my team, and one person takes 3 hours to do a task and the other person can do the same task in 30 minutes because they use AI as a tool. When I'm hiring in 3 or 5 years from now, I'm going to have to hire the person who can do the task in 30 minutes because they are embracing AI. So if you're sitting in your practice going, AI will never be part of my practice, we'll never have it in my practice or in my position, I would second guess that. And that's kind of my goal here of saying that you will work your way out of a job if you don't start to embrace it. And AI is not 100% ready across the board. There's a lot of stuff still being developed, and we can talk about areas where it's working great and areas where it's not ready. But my goal here is to have everyone recognize that it's not going to replace you. It's replacing tasks unless you don't embrace it. Because at some point you will be replaced with somebody who does embrace AI. So It's kind of opening your mind to being open to the concept.
Yeah, well, and I agree with your assessment. And that's kind of where I landed too. Is I realized like I'm not going to be replaced by AI, but I will be replaced by another human using AI. So I
Mhm.
better figure out these tools quickly, and it's transformed my work, and it's made it more fun and enjoyable actually. So
Mhm.
I do want to start kind of diving into taking some of the first steps with AI. But
Mhm.
before we do that, how do you kind of define AI for a practice? Because right, sometimes AI just creeps into a tool and you don't even know it's there. We've got, all these chatbots that are out there. So like what is AI in a practice? Like how do you define that?
Yeah, it's funny because AI's been around for a long time. It's artificial intelligence. I mean, they started talking about AI in the 50s. We just didn't have the technology to support it. We didn't have the content, the data that it needed to run. And so it's evolved over the last 5 years more than ever. But in a dental office, the reason we're actually even talking about it in dentistry, because typically in dentistry, we're behind mainstream business when it comes to technology. The reason we're talking about it in dentistry right now is because it's in our x-rays, in Pearl and Overjet. Like now our dentists are paying attention because of the clinical side of things. And that's where our dentists like to focus, is on the clinical, right? So AI can read x-rays, and we could talk about that. It's actually better than the human eye. It's not replacing dentist. It's a second opinion. That's what Pearl calls theirs, is a good example. It's there to help dentists, but not replace dentists. But that's why we're talking about it in dentistry. But what it is across the board is it is it understands patterns. It understands, if this happens, this is what needs to happen next. Here's the steps I need to do things. And so when we actually think about it, all of the things that we do in our position, whatever our position is, that can be repeated over and over, and a task that we do the same way all the time, or that we can teach somebody else to do, we can teach AI to do. And so where we're starting to talk about it in dentistry because of x-rays, it's crossed our practices and we don't even realize it. Like you said, Tim, like some things are AI companies coming into our business, but some are just the things that are happening on the back end of the software that we're already working with, right? We're already using. A good example of this is Spotify. Let's say you're using Spotify in your dental office for music. Well, when Spotify makes recommendations of, here's some songs that you might like, here's a playlist, that's AI. Like it's already there. When we use MapQuest on our website to give people directions to our practice, that's AI. Like AI is here. It's just that we're really talking about it now because of the clinical side of things with x-rays. And we're at a spot in technology where it's called a light bulb moment, which basically means the average person can use AI because it understands human language, or it can communicate with a human. So much like electricity, when electricity was invented, it wasn't available to everyone until they connected it to a light switch. Now we can turn on a light switch and we get a light bulb. I don't have to understand the technology behind it. I just know I need to turn the light switch. That's what's happening right now. Is it is now available to everyone because we can communicate with it and get tasks done without having to understand the code or the programming on the back end.
Yeah, well, and it absolutely is here. I actually just looked up a stat. This is from the Artificial Intelligence and Dentistry Usage statistics just from last year. 35% of dental practices, they're already using AI in efficiencies, diagnostic, patient care. And here's what's shocking is 77%, right? That's almost 80%, or 8 out of 10 practices who are using some kind of AI to enhance their practice, they report positive outcomes. So this is overwhelmingly positive, right? The super majority are finding this very, very helpful in their practice. And so,
Mhm.
if you're a doctor and you're feeling curious about this, but maybe a little overwhelmed and not sure where to dive in, what are some meaningful steps that you can start taking to actually putting AI in your practice?
Well, the first and foremost, AI not only can replace tasks that we do, but where I would suggest everybody start, if you're brand new at AI or just trying to figure this out, is to go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the number
Mm,
one, source that we can use when it comes to learning how AI works. And with ChatGPT, one of the great things is it can help streamline tasks that you do. and it's a brainstorming tool. So go to ChatGPT on your own personally outside of work. Don't come into the team and say, we're all using this, but actually yourself, go to ChatGPT, take some courses, learn how to do this, go online, learn from others, and ask it to do some things that you do in your everyday life to make it a little easier. For example, give me a team meeting outline. Give me 10 ideas for creative team building event that we can do. Help me write an advertisement for the hygienist that I'm hiring for. Write an onboarding checklist for the dental assistant that I'm hiring. Like, go do some of the tasks that take a lot of time and or that maybe you've been wanting to get to but just haven't, and let ChatGPT help you see how the brainstorming, the checklist, the outlines can be done to embrace the concept of what AI can do for you. Then you can start to look at the tools and the software that are available in our industry. But first, I think it's important to embrace just what it is and what it's not.
Wow, right. What a simple, easy thing to do, right? It takes a couple moments and really just talk to it like it's a friend, right? I think, there's a lot of, kind of trepidation sometimes, but right, just be friendly, be curious with these tools. And, we're kind of talking about, the doctor going back, using some of the chat GPTs, doing some brainstorming, but how do you bring that back to the team, right? This is where I believe your experience is so important. How do you start bringing these ideas back to the team in a way that gets everyone excited instead of overwhelmed?
Yep. So the first thing is we have to have a discussion with the team about what AI is and what it's not. So having a team meeting and saying, okay, let's talk about AI. I guarantee you there's people on your team who are using AI right now in their personal life. Like they're, talking through with ChatGPT about a disagreement they had with their spouse and trying to get new ideas of how to talk to their spouse, or they've heard somebody talking about it in our industry and they're playing with it a little bit. But you also have people on your team who are very afraid of it, who are don't even understand. I mean, I speak all the time to dental groups, traveling around the country, and there's always some people in my room who've never even heard of ChatGPT. So get an assessment of where your team is with AI and how they feel about it. Because if we don't first start with awareness of how do we feel, what do we think about it, and where is everybody individually on it, you don't know what needs to change or how to bring it to your team. The second thing is include your team in the discussion, because I bet you there are people in your team who know more than you might know already about AI, right? They already might be using it and have suggestions. And then let's talk about, why do we even want to consider it? If your team understands why, like, we want to be more efficient, we want more time. I mean, the number one thing in practices across the country right now is we're all short-staffed. We need to hire. We can't find good people. We're overwhelmed. There's not enough time in the day. Well, when your team can see that AI can make them more efficient, to give them a little bit more time to be able to go to the bathroom, to have lunch, they may be more willing to embrace it and learn it and try it, because that's one thing that we never have enough of is time, right? So really being transparent. And the great thing about this is nobody's an expert with AI. It's not like you're bringing some training, like we're all learning this. So be open as a leader and saying, I don't know where we're going to go with this yet, but I'm willing to try it. Are you guys willing to try it? And I guarantee with the right team, they're going to jump on board and want to investigate it also with you.
Yeah, no, it's so powerful. In fact, I was listening to Sam Altman, the founder of ChatGPT and OpenAI. They're building massive data centers called Stargate. And they were asking, like, what's your goal with this? And I loved his answer, because it was actually kind of ambiguous, but very specific. He said, I just want to build these tools and give them to people so they can do whatever they're going to do with them. So, we're building tools, and that's what we're giving you. And so everyone's learning this together, and you're going to figure out like what works for your practice. And that's coming from the founder of OpenAI. He's saying, I'm just building tools to give you these things and let you build whatever you want to build. And so I love that mindset. So powerful.
One of the things, as you could tell, I'm geeking out on this. The last 2 years I've been playing with AI. And one of the things that I want to start under my new Brush Up on AI, which we'll talk about, is a community where we can just come together and talk about how we're using AI and tools. Because even you and I, Tim, we could probably sit here for 30 minutes and you could tell me what AI tools you're using and how, and I would have been like, I had no idea they could do that. And then I would show you how I'm doing something with AI and you're like, that's amazing. And it's coming so fast that we can't even keep up with it, right? Yeah. And so just sharing amongst each other, like, have you ever thought about this? Try this, do this. I mean, I do it with audiences and you just see mind blown. They're like, that would have taken me 2 hours to write this job description, and ChatGPT just did it in like 20 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. And so really embracing the tasks and the tools to see where it can, and it's getting better each and every day. It really is.
Now, with this rapid shift in pace, because we've never seen technology hit so quickly and transform and end up in so many places so quickly. So what questions should a practice owner, right? If you're a doctor thinking about implementing some of these things in your practice, right? How do you do this in a smart way so that you don't go down a wrong road or, invest in something where you're like, I can't believe like that company doesn't exist anymore, doesn't do the thing I thought, because everything is shifting so quickly. So how do you make those right strategic choices when everything around you is shifting so quickly?
I love that you asked that, because that's another reason that I'm super interested in this, is that I feel that we have two things to consider when we consider bringing AI into our practices. One is AI, right? That is it ready? There are some parts of AI that are good. There are some parts of AI that are ready, and there are some parts of AI in dentistry that's not ready yet. It's just not there. But then also the dental wisdom. We have a lot of companies coming into our industry saying they're an AI company, but they don't actually even know dental. And I'll give you an example. I talked to a company that has an AI agent that can answer phones, and they wanted me to talk about their company. And so I did a little investigation and asked them, how long have you been in dental? And he had been the founder in dental for 6 months. I said, why are you in dental? And he said, because my uncle's a dentist and there's good money in dentistry. And then in the next conversation, or the next thing he said to me is, by the way, did you realize that there's a difference between an endodontist and an orthodontist? I had no idea. I don't want this agent answering my phones, right? Like, this agent doesn't have the dental wisdom. So one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to embrace the companies that have dental wisdom and are embracing AI and helping dentists to know who to work with or what questions to ask, because you don't want an agent who doesn't know dental answering your phones. You don't want an agent who doesn't really understand the idiosyncrasies of a practice scheduling your patients, right? And so there is going to be a balance of like really understanding how to know what businesses, what industry, or where we're ready and where it's not ready, right? And what companies we want to work with.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's why I'm like, I don't even want to ask you about the different tools and things you're using, because next week it's going to be different. And so, right, I don't even want to go into that. But I do want to talk a little bit about Brush Up on AI, and we're going to come to that. So stick around. You're going to enjoy hearing this. So that is super, super important. And it's a great way that you are giving back. But first, a quick little break.
You're listening to the Dental Wealth Nation Show, where we give you the keys to building true wealth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with the friends you care about. Ready to level up? Grab a copy of my #1 best-selling book, Dental Wealth Nation, and unlock the secrets of building true wealth today.
We are here talking about AI and gaining efficiencies and gaining time back in your practice. We're with Laura Nelson of Front Office Rocks. We're going to be talking about a Brush Up on AI workshop. Amazing stuff that's going on. And so Laura, I want you to pull out your crystal ball for us here in a moment and just think through us. Like where do you really see AI having the biggest impact over the next, say, 36 months in dentistry? And what should practice owners be doing right now today to get ready for this major shift?
I envision a day where and this is the human side that I'm concerned with. That's why I want to start talking about it now. I envision a day where our team can clone themselves, quote unquote, meaning all of the tasks that we have to do that keep us busy, that get us to not go to lunch on time, or not get to go to the bathroom, or not get our chart or our notes done, or always falling behind. I envision that we're going to have so many resources in AI to help us do the things that we don't need to be the ones doing. We can only do what the human does. So the reactivation calls, the recare calls, the scheduling our patients, the chats on our website, answering the phones when we're not available. I envision a day where the schedule can be organized by AI, because ultimately that's a system. I envision a day where the dentist can walk into an operatory and they can have an ear thing in their earphone in their ear, and the AI is going to tell them who the next patient is, what they talked about last time, what treatment do they still have. I envision it in perio charting. I think it's already coming in perio charting, second opinions on x-rays. Like, it's going to touch every position in the dental office. My concern is that as an industry, however, we are addicted to running behind. We are addicted to never having enough time, because it's just the way we've always done it. I mean, there's always a million things that you have to do. And the second thing is it kind of feels like job security. Like, well, if AI is doing half of my work, what am I needed for, right? Well, we already talked about the human aspect of it, but also envision a day where you actually can go to lunch, when you can go home at 5 o'clock, when all of your patients are being contacted and communicated with, when you actually get caught up in those checklists of things that you never have enough time to do, you actually get to do, right? So we as humans need to evolve and embrace this idea, especially in our industry, that we are going to become more efficient, and we are going to be able to give our patients that amazing service that they deserve. So, like I said, we have a backdoor problem in our practice, and that's because we're too busy, we don't run our systems, and we're not giving our patients amazing customer service. We now, in the future, will be able to do that, because we're going to be more efficient and we're going to have more time to take care of our patients.
Yeah. Now, I want to pull that thread a little and kind of go off the rails just a little bit here, thinking through that, because right, you head back 100 years ago, and we were supposed to gain a lot of efficiencies in our day, right? We were supposed to have more leisure time, but we actually find ourselves just working at a faster and more frantic pace. So how do we kind of balance these tools out so that when we do regain some efficiencies in your practice, when you do get a little extra time, that just doesn't evaporate to being even busier and more exhausted at the end of the day?
For sure, for sure. And that is definitely a place of balance. Luckily, AI can also be there for that with regards to, I just actually saw a new app that's out that can remind you throughout the day to take a few minutes to do some breath work. Yoga, it can deliver to you, here's your half hour in your schedule to go do yoga. Like, there are so many aspects of our life that we can now start to balance to say, I want to schedule date night with my wife every Thursday night, make it happen. And it's one of those things where we maybe have thought about it, but we haven't really put it. It's like having your own executive assistant. Like, we're all going to have a trained person in our back pocket that looks out for the best interest of ourselves. Now, that is where the human side comes in. You could and I was like this when I first started playing with AI. I got so darn efficient, but I was still working 12-hour days because I was doing 3 times as much. So I had to pull back and say, no, the idea with AI is not to do 3 times as much. It's to do the same amount that I'm doing and give myself some time back in the day for me and my family. And so it's really definitely a balance of the human side of things as well as the AI.
Yeah, no, I wanted to pull that thread because I think it's so important, because, right, balance means everything in life, right? You don't want to just be more efficient so that you can work at a breakneck pace, right? You want to actually take care of yourself in the process, because if you do that, you're actually going to be more efficient the more you take care of yourself.
And for dentists, the one thing I don't know anything about, I'd love to have comments and conversation about it, is clinically when we get to doing dentistry, like dentists want to do dentistry. Like, that's where you would love to live all the time. I don't know where AI is really going to affect the clinical side of things. And you can only do dentistry so efficiently and so fast, right? So there's still going to be the part of, like, when it's time to do only what the human can do, that we do it at the speed a human should be doing it, which is being able to have time, take time with the patient to really take care of them clinically. So that'll be, because dentists want to get more production in the chair usually, right? More schedule, more in the schedule, more. And that's not the goal here. And I don't know that you can do more dentistry with AI, potentially, maybe a little bit, But the idea is to get all the other stuff off your plate so you can really focus on the dentistry and the things that you love and enjoy.
Yeah, no, I love that so much, and in working with practices, right, and especially the dentist out there, right? Do you see them kind of get stuck sometimes when it comes to learning this or implementing this, and how can they really overcome that sense of being stuck and not knowing how to move forward?
Yeah. And again, just brainstorm with AI, go to ChatGPT and talk about, I feel stuck. What could I do? I just did a presentation. I was speaking at Michigan a couple of weeks ago, and I did a 2-hour presentation. And within the presentation, I talk about how AI is going to change this topic, this thing. And at the end of the presentation, I had everybody get up and share with each other things that they learned. And my friend was in the room and she shared with the dentist. And the dentist, after a 2-hour presentation, he said, well, I don't care what she says. I'm not letting AI in my practice.
Whoa.
And what I was thinking was, AI is already in your practice. Like we already are using AI, it's part of our life. I mean, we all have our phones that are listening to us. When you sit down on Netflix, it tells you what kind of shows you should watch. It's already in your life. But this is going to take this dentist more nudging. And at some point, you are going to have to embrace this, because if you don't, the dentist across the street is, and your patients are going to go there because it's easier to work with that dentist than you. So it's more of, if you feel like you're stuck, we tend to blame outside factors, right? We tend to blame the economy, politics, the recession, this, that, whatever. But really, the change happens within your 4 walls. And so if you feel stuck, if you feel resistant, if you're pushing back, to maybe stop and look in the mirror and say, what's going on in here, right? That is making it feel this way. Because first, becoming aware of how you feel about it, which is why I started with AI. How does your team feel about it? They're not going to embrace it unless they first realize, how do they even feel, right? And a lot of the work happens inside, not outside.
So what about the gap that might be created between a practice that's using AI versus not, right? Once again, the technology, it's just shifting so quickly. And so how far behind is a practice going to be if they're not starting on this today?
That's a good question, honestly. And that's that's part of my whole mission right now, is to just get people to start to embrace this. Because it will get to a point where, and I give this example a lot when I'm speaking, that it's, your patients love you because of your customer service. You're amazing. They remember their name. They love your hygienist. They love your front office team. That's awesome. But at some point, it's too hard to work with you. And if it gets too hard to work with you, at some point, they're going to go somewhere else, because they can schedule online. They can pay a bill. They can chat with AI in the evenings. They can schedule, they could call an AI agent and get their appointment handled. Where your practice, they can only call between 8 and 5, and they have to talk to a human, and we have to call them back, and the procedures take longer. And so there is a point where our patients are going to want they still love you. They still think your practice is amazing, but you're too hard to work with. And when is that switch? I don't know. But for me, I don't want to be the one who's sitting here doing it the way we've always done it, because eventually your patients will go somewhere else. Eventually they'll find another place.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is get started on this, right? Even if you do it poorly at first, like, just get started, right? Fail fast is what you have to do in this technology.
It's not just getting, here's a good example of Pearl is a company that I like. They literally plug into your software, and AI goes back and reads the past x-rays and brings you that, so you can see what it noticed. AI can read x-rays better than the human eye. Again, it's not to replace dentists, but it's to highlight and spotlight for dentists to go, hey, did you see this? Did you notice that? I know every dentist who works alone, when they start to work with another dentist in their practice, an associate or a partner, they love that camaraderie that they have about talking about clinical things. Well, it's kind of like AI camaraderie, and there's not much you have to do besides turn it on, right? Then your team with Pearl is a good example. They do insurance verification, and you could see the history on a tooth, and you can see, what was done to the procedures. Well, imagine if your team only had to spend, 30 minutes on the phone with insurance instead of 3 hours. How much would they love that? And there's nothing you have to do except for turn it on. AI does the back end work. So some of this is just, I don't want people to think like, oh man, I got to go get new servers. I got to go get new software. I got to bring my tech guy in. Like, a lot of this stuff is literally plug and play. and then just test it and see how it works and see how it changes your practice.
I love that. And so, right, how do you specifically help teams that are looking to do this, right? To talk a little bit about brush up on AI and what you've got going on there, because I'm so excited about this and I know it's going to help so many dental offices.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited too. And AI has come so fast that I'm trying to run just as fast as everybody to keep up. So initially, I have a Facebook group. That's everybody's welcome to join our Facebook group. And that's just a place where we're talking about AI. I have a weekly newsletter that goes out specifically embracing the topics that we're talking about every week based off of, this week's newsletter is on telephones and how we're going to adapt with AI when it comes to our phones, right? The next thing I'm building is an online course in a community. And then eventually what I want to get to is I actually want to help dentists analyze their current practice and where AI could be more efficient for them and help them with an implementation program. So I'm kind of building a stepping stone to be able to do that. I want to do live workshops. Like, as you can tell, I've been a trainer for 15, 20 years, and I'm all into technology. And so my goal is to have an evolution of products that'll be able to help dentists embrace AI in the practice.
Oh, I love that. And I just posted the link to the 2-day workshop below. So I would encourage you to check that out, sign up, right? It's going to be interactive and you will walk away learning a lot more about how to do this in your practice. Because I do think there really is a first mover advantage here, Laura. The practices that embrace this are going to pull so far ahead of everyone else that you're going to have a hard time catching up if you haven't been putting these things in your practice.
I want to just tell a quick story, if it's all right, Tim.
Oh, yeah, of course.
My husband and I both, I'm remarried, just in case anyone's like, wait, you said you were divorced. I'm remarried. And my husband, who's not dental, went to his practice and they use AI for reading x-rays. I went to my practice about a week later who used AI. And the difference is they both use AI. They both, look at x-rays and they use the technology behind it. But my practice, the hygienist brought it up on the 6 o'clock monitor for like 2 minutes and then pushed it away and said, I looked at AI, everything looks fine. That's all she said about AI. His practice brought up the AI, showed pictures, showed the outline, talked about what AI found, talked about where the dentist wanted to hold off, where things were needed. He came home and basically had a little dental degree after that appointment because the team used the AI. So wow. My point here in bringing this up too is it's not just about the technology on the back end to make us more efficient. It's also how do we talk to our patients about it? And that's one of the things I'm going to do in the workshop is really, now we've got AI, now how do we use it? Because our patients are going to start expecting it. They're going to want to start knowing that we're using it. And then how do we have those conversations, which ultimately will be increased case acceptance.
Wow. Absolutely amazing. And we have just barely scratched the surface on this, Laura. I mean, there's so much more that can be said, but kind of in closing, what are some things that you really hope that every listener walks away with today, right? Not just in their minds, but really in the actions that they take back with them to their practices.
Well, the first thing I would say is to get ChatGPT, or there's other ones too. There's Claude and Perplexity and there's a lot, but just some app to start playing with AI yourself. Because dentists, we tend to kind of hide under a rock and then just hope it's going to go away. It's not going anywhere. So get in and start trying it and playing with it. Secondly, have a conversation with your team now about how do we feel about AI? Where would it make our lives more efficient? Because you may not even understand. So many times dentists don't realize that the team is so behind something because we don't have those conversations. So ask your team and start the conversation because it is coming. There's no question. And there's lots of, like we said, there's lots of companies I could refer you to. There's lots of great things out there. I'm not saying you need to do anything today, except for just start to open your mind about it and start to play with it personally and see where it's going to make an impact for your practice.
Excellent. Such great advice. And we actually have some listeners tuning in. We've got a Dickie Ball, a good friend, Summit Handpiece Repairs, who keeps your practices running and your handpieces working. He says such great information and well explained. Thank you, Laura. So Dickie, thank you for tuning in. Always a pleasure to have you. And so Laura, for those of you who are looking for you and want to learn more, right? I put the link for the 2-day workshop below, but how can we get in touch with you, right? You got your Facebook group. Is that really the best way to stay connected?
Yeah, I would say you can join the Facebook group. You can come to Laura Nelson Speaks. That's my website. And on there, I have Brush Up on AI, which is where my workshop is listed. And you can sign up for my newsletter. The newsletter is focused on the topics in our dental office and then how AI impacts them, how to talk to your team about it, tricks on prompting, like all the things that you need to know. I spotlight some of the companies. I teach things like what questions to ask these AI companies that are coming into our industry. So 100% sign up for the newsletter. And then as I launch my course, my online course, and our community, of course, those will be all announced through the newsletter. So if you want to stay connected, definitely sign up for that.
I love that. And I would encourage you to get the newsletter because, right, it's one thing to get a newsletter from a product company. It's another to get one from Laura, who's in the practices, seeing this day to day, and who's sharing real working knowledge with you. So I believe that's what makes your newsletter so unique is it's born out of experience and you see firsthand what's going on in these practices.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm a trainer at heart. I love to teach. So it's not just a newsletter of data. It's a newsletter of there's always some education in it of ways that you can bring it back to your team or to your practice.
Excellent. Well, any closing thoughts before we sign off here, Laura?
No, I'm super glad that you brought me on. I appreciate it. I think that it needs to be talked about. There's a lot of companies out there who are talking about how AI is going to be this amazing next, raise the roof kind of thing. And yes, one day, but right now, I think we just need to raise the floor of just like, how can we help our teams get better on the things they're doing now? What are some of the things that your teams are overwhelmed with? And how can we help them using AI? Because hiring is not getting any easier. I mean, like I can go down the street and get paid better at Chick-fil-A than I can in a dental office, unfortunately. So we need to find new and better ways to help our teams. So I appreciate that you're helping to spread the message to people who follow you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And it is, right? We want to improve patient care, right? And that's the goal of all this, right? We want to improve patient care to make sure you're taking care of the people who are coming in. But more importantly, we want you to enjoy your work and what you do and make sure that your lifetime of hard work pays off. And if you do that, if you embrace these tools, you're going to have a practice that you love. You're going to have patients who love you back. And life is just going to be so much better. So thank you for sharing so generously with us here today on the Dental Wealth Nation show.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's Dental Wealth Nation show. If you've loved today's insight, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share the wealth with your dental friends. I'm Tim McNeely, and remember, your amazing life of significance is just one smart decision away. Keep thriving and catch you next time on the Dental Wealth Nation show.